Good night, everyone. We are going to move into the next part of our morning. Now, this section of our morning isn't a formal meeting. It's not deliberations. This is a briefing. It is a public briefing. We are live streaming and we have wonderful people with us here this morning as well. So as a reminder, this is a briefing from 3 organisations this morning. We have Ngāti Walker presenting to us, DOC and the Walking and Cycling Commission. So we'll have 3 presentations this morning. You're called. It is also an opportunity for councillors to ask questions of clarification of those presenting. It is, of course, not an opportunity for debate because this is not a formal meeting. It is just a briefing. That said, I would like to do a few reminders just because we have so many people in the room with us and we are streamed online. Welcome to this briefing. We are in the supper room of the Waihinga Centre and we are live streaming. Please ensure that your cell phones and devices are either switched on or on silent mode whilst this briefing is in progress. We will stop if a cell phone goes off. As I've mentioned, we are recording and streaming online. And the emergency exits are both the door that you came in and the door behind me. If you need to evacuate the building, please use one of these exits and assemble outside the playground. Please remain at the assembly area until the building has been confirmed clear. In the event that we experience any unruly or intimidating behaviour during the course of this briefing, we will adjourn until it is safe for us to reconvene. Members of this committee and staff will congregate in the office area behind me if this action is necessary. I would like to open this briefing with a karakia, so if you'd like to stand and join me at the opening karakia, please.
E hura ni ngā tātou, e te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātana ni a tātou katoa. Pie, kai pie.
Yeah, thank you. Hami, would you like to start this morning with your presentation?
Madam Chair, I've prepared a statement.
Perfect.
And I did send it last night to Janice. I don't know if the council have seen it, but I've got copies here.
We could have copies.
So I'm happy to hand out copies.
So just a reminder that each organisation has 15 minutes to present. That 15 minutes will also include time for any questions from the councillors as well.
Sure, it's
I won't make the mistake I did last time. Do a big me.
Your 15 minutes will kick off when you're ready, Hami.
I'll just read. Kia ora tātou. This further submission is written of the proposed Cape Palliser Road bylaw on behalf of myself as an owner and trustee of the 2 affected land blocks and as chair of Ngāti Waka Me Ona Hapu Karanga Charitable Trust. The bylaw is a critical measure to protect wāhi tapu, Māori-owned land and environmentally sensitive areas. It also enables council to meet obligations under Te Tiriti o Waitangi while respecting hapu authority. At the same time, it must be clearly recognised that the land in question is private land and we retain full rights as landowners. References to consultation or cultural assessments do not override our rights nor authorise public access without our consent. The land itself is unsuitable to farm, being similar in contour and vegetation to the neighbouring Aorangi Forest Park, primarily native bush and scrub. The small area along the flatter coastal parts has been fenced to allow some grazing and help reduce the fire risk during summer. However, vehicle damage and poachers continue to impact on grazing stock. We support option 1, amended to exclude all motorised vehicles. We oppose options 2 and 3. We reserve all rights, including judicial review, applying to the Māori Land Court or other legal remedies to protect our land interests. I'm attaching a short document we feel addresses Council's obligations for fencing the road, along with a copy of the Native Land Court minutes. Now, I sent those through to Janice. I didn't feel the need to put them into this document or hand them out today. So, Te Tiriti obligations, rangatiratanga and private land rights. Under Te Tiriti o Waitangi, Māori are entitled to exclusive and undisturbed possession of their lands and retain te tino rangatiratanga over their lands, villages and taonga katoa. The bylaw supports these rights by allowing hapu and landowners to exercise authority over whenua. Any public and council action must respect this authority and recognise our kaitiakitanga responsibilities alongside our private ownership rights. Protection of whenua and wāhi tapu. The paved road traverses or borders areas of high cultural and spiritual significance, including urupa. Unrestricted public access risks desecration and damage. The bylaw provides protection consistent with tikanga and ensures the mana of hapu and landowners is upheld. Environmental and safety concerns. The damage from four-wheel drive vehicles, poaching and other misuse has left the land degraded. A rest period under the bylaw will allow ecosystems to recover. The road itself is discontinuous and eroded, creating safety risks for the public and liability risks for council. Modern vehicles are far heavier and more damaging than those present when the 1934 Native Land Court fencing obligations were set, reinforcing the need for restrictions. Council must also undertake a formal survey to confirm the legal road and its boundaries. Legal responsibilities and historic obligations. The 1934 Native Land Court order makes council liable for roadside fencing costs where vehicle access is withdrawn or fencing is required. These obligations remain binding and must be acknowledged. Any access arrangements must not preempt the bylaw, survey or fencing responsibilities. Intergenerational responsibility. The bylaw ensures the land can heal for future generations. Short-term inconvenience to the public is outweighed by long-term protection of cultural, spiritual and ecological values. Future access discussions may be possible over once recovery has occurred and legal and fencing issues are resolved. Conclusion and recommendation. The bylaw is necessary to protect the land, honour Te Tiriti obligations and manage environmental, cultural and safety risks. We respectfully request Council to 1. Conduct a full survey of the paper road. 2. Implement the bylaw to protect cultural, environmental and safety values. 3. Honour the 1934 fencing obligations. 4. Recognise their exclusive possession and tino rangatiratanga. 5. Engage with us directly on future access opportunities after recovery and legal clarification. Analysis of options. Option 1, amended bylaw, pedestrian and cyclists only, conditionally acceptable if motorised vehicle permits are excluded. This protects Te Tiriti rights, honours fencing obligations, addresses erosion and safety and allows low impact access. Option 2, status quo unacceptable. It perpetuates trespass, degradation, safety risks, Te Tiriti breaches and ignores fencing obligations. Option 3, abandoned bylaw for workable solution, also unacceptable. It sidelines hapu authority, delays urgent action and risks normalising trespass. Overall position, the only acceptable approach is option 1, amended to exclude all motorised vehicles. This approach protects Te Tiriti rights and tino rangatiratanga, respects historic obligations, addresses environmental and safety concerns, and allows limited public access consistent with kaitiakitanga. This option will drastically reduce the council's exposure to further litigation, whether that's from the landowners and hapu or the public. The council will be able to focus its resources on what's needed to effect the bylaw rather than litigation in the courts. Finally, I wish to end by acknowledging and thanking South Wairarapa District Council for recognising the severe damage being caused to this whenua through public access needed to be addressed. It has felt like a partnership, and we feel your decision must continue to respect this relationship. And that's a genuine fact that we work well with the staff, work well with us during this last 2-year period to get to the point that we are now. There are.
I'm sure I have some questions, but I'll start by asking one. What we've heard both through the verbal submissions and the written is, yes, maybe confusion or a lack of understanding around the paper road and your land. So people are saying, well, the paper road is the paper road. We should be able to drive on it or walk it. And what you do with your land is your business. Can you, for clarification for members and anyone watching, explain the relationship, I guess, the way you see it between the paper road and what is your land?
And I mean, I think that's the approach, Melissa, that we've taken. I mean, as Dennis pointed out in a report from 1955, there's been an issue of people, the entitlement started, that's why you got people saying, I've been going there for 50 years, nobody's ever, told me that I can't. So I think, in terms of separating the land, it's not really, it's a visual thing. I haven't heard anybody come along and say they've come with an app that shows them where to go. The paper road where it is going to just take them into rocks. They can't drive through anyway. There's all of those issues that I think that the only real way to serve vehicles, and I'm not talking about walking access, because that's an easy one to deal with. I think just marking and signposting, but for vehicles, I mean, we thought it would work when we put the gate there, which was 30 years, and we went through the same process with council then. They knew the information about my native land court minutes, and then accepted that a gate was possible. So we tried that, and that hasn't worked either. So it's really is the whenua that is the issue. And there's so much, I mean, there's, talking about quad bikes. I was out there one day at the lighthouse, and I saw these young people on their quad bikes going up the hill, and you can see a track there. And I know for a fact that there's a burial there, of an ancient burial there, because I put it there, along with the police, along with Heritage New Zealand, along with, our Archbishop, Sally Tahana. I put it there. And here they are, they've got no idea, what they're travelling over. No idea what and I mean, quad bikes, and we recognise, coastal areas, quad bikes do the same damage as large vehicles. They can go places where the large vehicles can't.
Tēnā koutou. Thank you, Harmy. Interestingly, if I had been required to put my thoughts in writing ahead of this meeting, I probably would have written 99% the same as what you have. I absolutely agree. Not only should quad bikes not be allowed there, but actually it's a miracle that we haven't had to go and rescue half of them, with an ambulance, because, frankly, if they were to stick to the road, they'd kill themselves. The only way a quad bike can usefully have fun there is by not sticking to the road, and that leads to the problems you've alerted us to. But I certainly think number one priority is actually an accurate survey of where the road actually is, and let's deal with the dispute between, does the road take us into the ocean or does the road take us up? Because I suspect there will be a proportion of people who come there think the road follows what looks to be what the only obvious way to get where you're going, not knowing that it's not the road.
Can I just call a point of order? Sorry, Your Worship, but the reality is that we're not here at the moment to discuss or debate the proposal. We're just
My question,
of clarity.
my
Sorry, Your Worship.
Is they follow whoever's gone in front of them. So, you know, they see the tracks, that's where they go. Nobody goes along coast anymore.
But the bit that surprises me is the issue about who's liable for the fencing, because the conventional sense in New Zealand is that the property owner fences their own property. Do you have an understanding why a court made the council liable on this occasion?
It's quite a rare, just because of the, I mean, I'd say that because the price they paid for the land at the time, and because the owners weren't represented in the court when the land was taken. So it's, some might say it's Maori land or native land court doing its job, but it will have been related to the fact that the lessees, who were not the owners, were agreeing to, you know, that it didn't need to be the fence, because at the time it would have been the liability of the council to do. And so that's what it's very rare, I think. It's very rare, but that's the case for this road. That's what happened. And this area has never been fenced, never been seen as being a public road. And only, you know, people's rights and imaginations. So I think that's if you look at what they paid for the area in front of the lighthouse was £5 for the land, and £40 for the was allowed for the fencing and for the whatever road was there. But as somebody's pointed out, the road has always existed. It's like Dan Ridderford calls it the customary highway, you know. So it goes, it's always been there, and the tracks have always been there for people to, but realistically, it was never possible then to put a roadway all around Wide Rock, and it's not possible to do that now.
If they thought that £40 would pay for the fencing, I wish they'd done it in 1934. Councillor Palliser.
Thanks, Deputy Head. Lorraine Harmy, thanks for coming to speak and all the work that you have and the information that you've supplied to our staff to put in front of us. Going through the paper that you have supplied to staff, the document that you prepared for Waitangi Tribunal in December 2002, I was reading through chapter 5, which relates to the Palliser Bay Road, and on page 139 there you mentioned that in 1996 council had the road or had the route survey 2 miles past the lighthouse. Do you know, or can you recall which company or which surveys did that for council?
It was a time I wasn't on the Murray Standing Committee, but actually Auntie Sally was, Hariata Tahani, who's the main owner of some of these blocks here. She was on the, and I don't know. All I know is that the Murray Standing Committee pushed for it to be surveyed. They had, they put posts.
Survey
Posts. Well, no, I don't know that they did survey. It was just showing where it goes.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks.
That's right. That was.
And what year was that? What year?
1996.
It's great to try and dig out and find out that. Thank you.
Councillor Cooley.
That's nothing to do. Can I ask Janice, just, I know I've got a conflict of interest in the hearings, am I allowed to ask a question on this? Because it's that's all right.
Yeah, because this isn't formal. We do only have about 2 or 3 minutes, so we will need to be quick.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much, and your team, for the wonderful work you've done on this. But I was just wondering if I could ask, is it naive to think if the after the survey, if there was something of enough of an access on the paper road, with the volunteers that have come, volunteering of help that's come from the community in terms of equipment and fencing and aspect like that, would there be a possibility that quad bikes, if they could be contained on the road, paper road, with fences, that could give them access to the areas, or is that not really?
We've never
feasible?
had a problem with people travelling on the paper road.
Yes,
And it's not something that we realise it's a legal right.
yes,
It's keeping them there is the issue.
yes.
I don't understand that permitting system. I don't know where that would go. But I think that, and from our point of view, if the council sees that there's a need for fencing, then from our point of view, it's their responsibility, and it would be paternalistic, I think, to think any other way of why it would happen, and putting us at the mercy of the community.
Oh, yes.
is not something that
No.
we would, but it's ultimately it's the council to decide how they do it.
Yeah.
And acknowledging that it's not our responsibility.
We've got two very quick questions to wrap us up. So councillor.
Thanks. I mean, thank you for this. It's really valuable to me. I just wanted to, from what you've just said about the road, if the council was of a mind to say yes to 1, yes to 3, yes to 4, yes to 5, and do it without the bylaw part, so the surveying and the fencing and so on. My understanding of law that if somebody then cut the fence, that's willful damage, as opposed to an infringement offence of a trespass. So the protections for your land under the standard laws we've got, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but willful damage is a much higher offence than trespass. And so the protections that you would gain by fencing and surveying would be stronger than actually going down a bylaw, which would be much more difficult to enforce. So your view on that?
I understood that they're not incompatible, having a fence and having the bylaw. I thought that
Because I remember you spoke earlier that when the fence was up there or a gate was up there, people would cut the gate or whatever. That is actual willful damage under law. That's not an infringement. It's a criminal offence.
They stole the gate, so we had to put a lock on them, chain lock on them. But I mean, there's even a better example of that, because we agreed to DOC putting like a forestry gate on our land before you get to the stone wall. And so that's what Joe Henson, who's just passed away, he did that. And then within a matter of, I don't know, might have been days, it was torched. And, it was no longer. So I imagine that was done at the time that the land was purchased. That was them trying to, stop the vehicles going on to the reserve, scenic reserve. Feels like it was about that time. And he asked me if we could do that, and we said yes.
I'm trying to think which
is a
strong way to protect your land as opposed to bylaw, which most people would probably suggest the bylaw.
Interrupt, Alice. We do need to wrap up, so I'm going to give Pip the opportunity to ask her very final question, and then we must move to our next presentation.
Hilda, so I just want to check with you, Mother, with regards to at the start wanting it acceptable for walking and cycling, option 1. But you're wanting us to have a look at with regards to the quad bike. Is that for area while the survey and the marking is done and the fencing to ensure that they're not then going onto your land? So that way they follow that paper road. Is that why you were thinking that way?
I'm not sure what the council's intentions were in terms of their option 1. It looks like the intention was to fence it as well. So I imagine that's the And I don't know what their permitting system looks like. We don't know what that looks like. So how that works. Well, I think we've always said that we'll find some way of working with the locals. I think we've always said that. So I don't think that shouldn't be the issue. No.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time again this morning and through this process. We must move on to our next presenter, but feel free to stay, of course.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Since first from the Walking and Cycling Commission. Welcome.
My name is David Barnes. I'm the Regional Field Advisor for Herenga-Ranuku, the Outdoor Access Commission.
Outdoor Access Commission.
Thanks for this opportunity. I'd like to acknowledge Hami and the other Mana Whenua members. I wasn't at the hearings because I was out of town on the day, so some of my colleagues were here and they are here with me today. I'd like to acknowledge the fact the council's position's moved a lot since the draft bylaw was first put up. Our concern was that the bylaw was going beyond what was legally possible and really neutering the purpose of having a legal road, which is primarily to provide access. So the council's position now is to recognise that walking and cycling access is reasonable on the informal legal road is one that we support. The proposal to allow quad bikes and other off-road vehicles by permit system, we're not convinced that that's something that's particularly practical because we're not sure that those vehicles will be able to stay within the corridor of the road. It's 20 metres wide. From our understanding of the terrain, I haven't been there personally myself, is that the reason that the existing vehicle tracks deviate from the informal legal road is because it's simply not practical for those vehicles to do so. So we're not sure how a permitting system could actually be practically implemented without encouraging directly or indirectly those vehicles to move off the legal road and then they're back onto the Harmy's block, which is what we're trying to prevent anyway. If walking and cycling access only is allowed, we think that it might be practical to just mark the route via poles at intervals, which is a reasonably cheap way of doing it. And I think if that's done, most walkers and cyclists will just move from orange pole to orange pole, and the whole trespass issue should more or less go away. And of course, as far as damage goes, the walkers and cyclists are not really the ones causing the damage anyway. If that approach is taken, we're not sure that a survey is actually necessary. The road corridor is 20 metres wide. There's plenty of good online digital mapping apps, including our own one, Pocket Maps, which would enable enough certainty of that alignment to be able to put those poles up the centre of the 20 metre wide corridor. I think surveying will be expensive, even if you can find that 1996 one, which would be useful if you could. And probably with that approach, we're not sure that fencing would be particularly necessary, because again, that's something that's going to be a significant expense to council. That's about all I've got to say. So many questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you, Councillor Edmonds.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, David. You mentioned that your mapping system, Pocket Map, that's available for people, and that identifies the route
Correct.
Going through. I haven't had the opportunity to look at that, but is that open to any member of the public?
Absolutely.
Does it need a subscription?
Downloadable free from our website, from Google Play Store or Apple. Apple.
So
it works offline.
So does that show the your term ULR, does that show that it is on the route?
Yes.
Follows land all the way around, it hasn't been eroded and disappeared off into the sea?
To the south Stonewall Reserve, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
As in, it has been eroded?
No. Yes, the
Sorry.
route is on the land. The route is on the land.
Yes.
Because in most places, there is private land between the coast and the road. I think that's something that a lot of people don't realise, is that the road, in a lot of, people talk about fishing and surfing and just playing on the beach. In a lot of cases, the road is not going to give them access to that, because after about 400 or 500 metres, I think, from Palliser Lighthouse, the road moves away from the coastline. So there's a wedge of private land between the road and the coast.
Any other questions for David? Simeon?
Are you aware that Pocket Maps doesn't appear to work on modern Android phones?
There are some of the latest ones, yes, it doesn't work on. It's being worked on.
Further questions for David? Your team did an excellent job in your absence.
I'm not at all surprised.
So thank you, and I'm not surprised there aren't lots of questions for you based on that.
It's very clear.
So without there being any further questions for you, thank you for your input
Thank
today and for being part of this process.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And that leaves Doc to come and present.
Exactly.
For our first two presents, we have 15 minutes in total to present to us this morning, and an ability for us to ask any questions and clarification from you or your team.
Kia ora koutou. E te haukana tōku ingoa. I'm Chatham's Wairarapa Operations Manager. And with me are Azora and Bruce from my team. We understood we were having to respond to questions. So we haven't prepared a presentation for you. Might save you 15 minutes today, but we know that there are things that are of interest to you around the stone wall, in particular establishment of access to what you can and can't do around the stone wall. And so we will take some time to talk about those things, and then
Kia ora katoa, Bruce Hill, tōku ingoa. I'm been with DOC for about 20 years, currently working in Kevy's team as Treaty Implementation Advisor. But 5 years before that, I worked on the funds team in the DOC National Office on the Nature Heritage Fund. So I'm going to give you, and the Nature Heritage Fund, the funding for that was used to purchase the Stonewall Scenic Reserve. So I'm going to provide just a potted history of that purchase and the resulting access that came out of that. So in about 2005, the Nature Heritage Fund, it's a contestable fund, independent, and David Barnes will be well familiar with it. An independent committee, they received an application for the purchase of the Stonewall, the freehold land became the Stonewall Scenic Reserve. Like any land purchase, a sales and purchase agreement was entered into, price negotiated, and one of the parts of that sales and purchase agreement was an easement to be laid off from the southern end of Napuki Road to the boundary of Orangi Forest Park, the southeastern boundary of that. And that easement would therefore provide public access from the form legal road, the southern end of Napuki Road, to the adjoining piece of public conservation land. DOC, as it does with those, DOC produced a sales and purchase agreement as per usual. And part of that sales and purchase agreement had a caveat on it, which meant that the DOC had the right to pursue that easement. DOC did pursue the formation of easements. Negotiations heated up in around 2020 when the then landowner was selling, and DOC negotiated with the then landowner and the current landowner, and the easement was created. The easement only, there's an unformed legal road, continuation of the paper road you've been talking about. There's an unformed legal road that runs from the southern end of the Ngāpuhi Road where the formation ends to Orangi Forest Park. Part of that is certainly in the sea. You can maybe see it. So the easement, there's only 6 sections of the easement. It covers the areas where the formation deviates from the paper road. Okay. So, and that easement.
Sorry, just to clarify, where the unformed legal road has fallen into the sea, the easement then allows that.
It covers where the formation is, where the current formation is.
So
The other,
This is the next hero.
yeah, and this is on the other side.
It's on the north.
so can we just clarify that this is from the White Rock
Yes.
end?
Yeah,
Where the gate,
Northern,
we
yes.
heard about the gate, the lock gates
Yes. Yep.
into Ngāpuhi Station,
Yes.
and across, and that route, that easement then goes to the Stonewall Reserve.
It goes to Orangi Forest Park, which in abuts Stonewall Scenic Reserve. So you can get, yeah, so you get onto public conservation lands and you can keep
Yes.
access. Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so that easement, it provides for public access only, foot and cycle access. And cycle access is limited to cycles are more than two wheels plus and only powered by muscular power, so excludes e-bikes.
Oh,
It also provides for dock management access. What is the access we have on numerous easements around the country? That includes the right to take motorised vehicles, guns and dogs. We're obliged to just notify the landowner if within 24 hours that we can use that access. It also covers our invitees. So, so should there be, so for pest animal control, for example, would be dogs contractors of invitees could also use that access. So the access is now formed. It's there. It does provide 24-hour as a right public access to public conservation land that extends onto the Stonewall Reserve. So just to sum up, there is secure public access to Stonewall Scenic Reserve from the northern end.
I know you may be going to cover this, but we heard through particularly the verbal submissions that camping at the Stonewall Reserve is not permitted by DOC. Can you speak to that one way or the other?
Under the Reserve Act, camping is not allowed in reserves or scenic and recreation reserves. DOC can provide camping sites in those scenic reserves, but they're allocated sites. Other than that, it is absolutely not permitted.
So just to clarify, camping at Stonewall is not permitted by DOC. With that in mind, given how many people across our submissions told us about camping at DOC, at this DOC reserve, what does DOC do?
yes.
Like realistically, what power or even capacity does DOC have to enforce or police camping on their reserves?
We have the power to enforce camping at this site and any other site where camping is permitted, but we don't have the resources to do that. We're not in a position to police.
Yeah, Councillor Elam's, Councillor Maynard, and then Councillor.
So the situation has been since 2005 when DOC purchased that land from Truno Cause and designated that as a scenic reserve. So for 20 years now, there has been no camping allowed yet. But here we are now, and a lot of the submissions that we have received, like Deputy Mayor says, that a lot of the submissions we've received is from people who have historically camped there for. How is DOC going to help council and Hapu and Ngāti Iniwaka resolve the situation, so many people who believe they have a right to camp there, that the scenic reserve. Because at the moment, this is on council's head. And we have received 3,500 submissions. There needs to be a solution, and I think that solution needs to come from all parties and all stakeholders, and having DOC on board would be very helpful.
Happy to work with our partners on that.
I'd just like to clarify that anyone wishing to camp within public conservation land and is unsure can check the DOC website where it's clearly stated that it is not licensed unless provided.
So is DOC going to be able to perhaps in the lead up to summer and or depending on what this process is, advertise the fact and put it out there and perhaps put some signage up to say well before people travel over Ngāti Walker's land to get to the Stonewall Reserve and then publicise the fact that that camping is not permitted there.
So if that signage is something that we have a shared responsibility for, and that's certainly something that we're working with Ngāti Walker and council on. I think that's something that we could do with staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard, and then Councillor Woodcock.
So, Councillor Engels actually covered something I was going to ask. What signage do you have there now? And that's obviously none yet, but we're hoping to work with that together. Is that what I'm hearing?
We have signage on the Ngāputiki side to clearly explain to people the easement that they're moving on to private property. And we have a sign on the Stonewall and defining the boundary of the Aorangi Forest Park.
But does it say you must not camp here?
So it's just
A little bit.
location.
Yeah, so what we heard repeatedly across a number of submissions is we need vehicle access through this paper road to take our camping equipment to Stonewall, because if we can't, how are we possibly going to carry our camping equipment to this specific location? And what DOC have been very quiet on is waving a flag that says, actually, you aren't meant to camp here. And so Councillor Elams is quite right. That's left us in a position as a council, kind of been the only voice in this, but Councillor Woodcock.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I hadn't finished. I literally was waiting to, because I was just clarifying what Councillor Elams has said with regards to signage. And if I'm hearing you correctly, the only access that DOC has provided to the site is via the White Rock Way or Ngāputiki. Am I correct that there's actually
The only
there is, so the access, and it is only walking and cycling,
Yes,
and that is not e-bikes.
not e-bikes, no.
So on the other side, there, a DOC has never had the expectation that anyone would be reaching that site from the other way. Is that right?
That's why we put signage at the boundary edge to make sure that people knew that they couldn't continue on. And also, it is a very difficult road to have vehicle access along on the northern part. You have to have a very significant four-wheel drive vehicle or skins. So that was part of that reason.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's just really important to clarify that on where and what the expectation is and how people can access that, because everyone has been telling us that they've been accessing it from the Palliser side. Yes. So whereas in fact that's not. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Woodcock.
Chair, just a question. In the past, going back down the line, but was there ever a camping ground there? Because I know back in the Featherston County Council days, just before Christmas, the Featherston County Council used to send guys out there to tidy up the road a bit and actually set up for rubbish bins and whatnot for camping. From my information from the old boss. So was there any at any stage an official campsite, or has there ever been thought of putting one?
I don't even know that.
I don't recall. No, he was the ranger.
You were a ranger, weren't you?
Yeah.
No, it's putting it slightly in there.
You were a ranger at the army.
Right for you.
Yeah, so I'm a ranger, so it's nice.
Councillor Olds.
Yeah, sorry, just sort of summing up here, but from the submission and the number of submissions we had, it would appear that the campers, and we're talking about campers now, access the Stonewall Reserve from the Cape Palliser side. And that's been identified now for all through our submission process, and certainly in my experience over the years of working along that coastline there. So, and I guess my question to you would be, how would you help support us if we allowed foot traffic through there to get to Stonewood? How would DOC be in a position to be able to help us to keep an eye on that and to maintain it and to make sure that we protect it for perpetuity?
So excluding vehicles would naturally help that. And excluding quad bikes and LUVs would naturally help that. And then beyond that, what I would say is that I think that's something that we can work on together with council and Ngāti Hine. I do think good signage is important, is key, will be key to do to that.
So, thank you. Cooperation between parties. Mm.
Yeah. Any final questions for the DOC team? No, that being the case, thank you very much. Considering you didn't form a presentation, you did very well presenting regardless. So thank you very much.
So Amanda, do you have maps or anything that actually show the access way, so DOC's access way to the site? Or
Janice is saying that.
oh, you do have them? Okay.
Different vehicles, but yes, we do.
Sorry, one last question.
Here's the one. How do they clarify that? As you will access policies.
Depends on
Yeah.
depends on the status. So the conservation management strategy, Wellington conservation management strategy. Google that. That'll tell you.
So what you're saying is that different reserves have different rules, and so some can say.
So do be aware that, you know, the legal road bisects the reserve. Yep.
Yes, does.
So it splits the reserve. So just be aware of that. So it's not just a block of reserve with no legal road for it. It goes for it.
Right.
We
We can have a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you to all three of you.
Yeah, well done.
I'm sure there is many more conversations for us all to have regardless of where deliberations go today. Thank you for some of those clarifications. So I think
Who's that?
sorry, just before we close this briefing, Narita, Heritage NZ, they are not here. Okay, so Heritage NZ were invited to present today as well, but have not been available. So with that in mind, we'll close this briefing with a karakia, and then we are due back here at 11:30. If you stand and join me, please. Huamutu amatu mahi Aotearoa.
Mana India, my mato kapswa, o mato whānau, heo ki te aorangi.
Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you back for the deliberations.